Massive crash exposes bad regulations. Max Verstappen possible retirement on the way. The teenager has George Russell shook, and copy and paste racing leading to very predictable outcomes. Welcome to the 2026 Japanese Grand Prix recap. So, before we get into the actual recap of the video, I got a couple, key takeaways to get into, as I mentioned in the intro. They kind of plagued the Japanese Grand Prix. I feel like early on, the first two races of the season, these regulations were 50-50. A lot of people were hating on it. A lot of people were like, oh, but you look at China, they're wheel to wheel, the Ferraris, like there can be good racing. But I think after today's race, there has been some stuff that, just can't get ignored anymore with the regulations, especially when it comes to driver safety and, what we saw out there with Oliver Bearman's crash, and how the deployment and battery usage can be a massive problem, and what they have to go forward to change about it, because obviously driver safety is at the top. Like, you got to keep everybody safe. We can't be having crashes like this, and people knew this was going to happen. Like, this isn't like a shock. Like, this was predictable. We knew something like this was going to happen. Even Carlos Sainz says that the FIA ignored driver warnings beforehand, and that they literally saw this crash happen. Like, they said something like this would happen if they didn't make any sort of changes towards what was going on with the deployment and harvesting and just like these closing speeds. Like, Bearman, he crashed at almost 308 kph miles per hour into the barriers, which is just so dangerous. And luckily, he only suffered a minor knee contusion. But, if that was, something else, we'd be having probably even a more different conversation right now. Drivers, have repeatedly made concerns about the dramatic speed differences created. And, it's something not even just the drivers, but us as fans have, noticed. It's not healthy. It's not good racing. And, with the month off now before Miami, the FIA has a big decision to make on changes it wants to make. I mean, obviously, it's going to be hard. I mean, I feel like they realized they made a mistake by making this 50-50 power unit. It's just not sustainable. It's not good for Formula One. And, or days like today, I should say, where you have a car who, I don't know exact mileage. There's been a couple numbers. It's been like 40 to 90. So I'm going to say more like 50 kph faster than the car that he's catching up in the spoon curve, which is just not an overtaking place. Like, it's dangerous, and we've seen what happened. And, we're lucky that Bearman suffered only minor injuries. It looked bad at first, he couldn't even stand up. So for today, for the upcoming races, the FIA is going to have to change some things. And, it's been an absolute disaster in terms of qualifying. I mean, qualifying's a joke now. I mean, we've seen the video of Kimi Antonelli's pole lap that they posted. They literally changed the camera angle. They've never done that before, going in the spoon. They changed it because they didn't want to show the super clipping. Super clipping's going to kill Formula One. Well, not kill, but it's definitely going to hurt Formula One a lot. And I'm not trying to, hate on Formula One so much, but it gets to a point where it's like you can only have so many things happen before it's hard to just keep defending it. And at first, I liked the racing. Honestly, it was something nice at first. Like Australia, you had Leclerc and Russell passing each other constantly. China, it was a little less, interesting, but you had Leclerc and Hamilton going side by side for 3 laps. It was entertaining stuff. But then you go to Japan, and this is going to bring me into my next point. It's the copy and paste racing. I mean, how many times did you watch somebody catch all the way up through 130R and to the final chicane, and then if they went for the move, they passed them going into that chicane. If they went to go pull away on the straight, they just got passed right back. And vice versa. You would catch all the way up, get right behind somebody, and then not be able to pass them on the straight because they just couldn't keep the traction out of that chicane. And, we could have expected some things like that to happen for this race, obviously. But I think today, more than any of the other races, exposed, the way too predictable racing. Not saying it made it easy. Like, it was still hard. Like, there was still a lot of passes. Like, for instance, Hamilton was falling away at the end there, but he went from third to sixth. So, like, it's not impossible to make passes for meaningful positions, but at the same time, if the driver ahead is just using his brain when it comes to when he needs to deploy, when he needs to, stop the guy coming from behind, it's simply too easy. I mean, you look at not even just easy, but it's just predictable. Like, you know what's going to happen. Like, for instance, you look at Pierre Gasly and Verstappen. When Verstappen would catch up, I literally was watching this battle because the main commentary wasn't showing it. I had it on my phone on the F1 TV, and I'm watching it from Verstappen and Gasly's POV. Verstappen, every time, he would catch him all the way through 130R, get right behind him, going into that chicane. They'd go through the chicane, and Gasly just takes off down the straight because you can't follow him behind because you would lose traction. And then the two times that he did pass him going into the chicane, Gasly just went right past. And then we see in the video, Verstappen literally waved to him as he flew past him because there's nothing he could do about it. So it's like, it's not been great. It's not been great. Has it led to some interesting stuff? Yes, but as an overall product, it's not been good. It's not been good. It hasn't. And it was, a nice shock at first, but now looking at it, it's just like, it's too predictable, it's copy and paste, and at the end of the day, it's changes need to be made. We're going to keep having, if it takes another person having a very scary crash or a couple more races of just back and forth, like, something needs to happen. Something needs to change. What they decide to do, that's for people smarter than me to decide, but that's my honest opinion on it. And it's going to lead me to my next point about Verstappen. I mean, he spent the last 25 laps of the race staring at the Alpine's rear end of Pierre Gasly. What a great drive by Pierre Gasly, first of all, but Verstappen, I mean, he came out and said that he's considering retirement now, literally because he's not enjoying the regulations at all. And, one side of it is like, wow, this guy's going to complain about it this much after he just dominated the last 4 years. What, like, bro, suck it up. But at the same time, it's like, he has a point. He has a genuine point. Even if Red Bull had a better car and was fighting up there, I don't think that they would, he would be winning any of these races, nor would he be really contending for the podium still. I think, if anything, he would be barely hanging on to that front pack, and if anything, it would maybe even make him more mad about it, because at least in the midfield, he's only having to deal. I mean, sure, it's an Alpine. Like, Red Bull and Alpine are genuinely having a battle here, and for him, obviously, that's not what he wants, but if he was up there battling with them and this thing was happening, it would be even worse. I mean, he'd probably be complaining so much about it. I mean, he already has, and you know what? He was asked if he's going to walk away, and at this point, he's thinking about it, because, you can't really blame him, though. Because like, for someone of his caliber, somebody who's already accomplished everything he's accomplished, it makes, like, kind of sense to consider it. If he's not having fun in the sport, I mean, at the end of the day, he's a human being. You can't hate on him for it. Like, sure, I mean, it's like, if you're, like, one of the best in your sport, he is the best, but it's like, you're up there, and you just aren't having fun, so you quit. Yeah, it's going to leave a lot of fans in, like, almost disbelief and, like, why are you doing that? But at the end of the day, he's a human. If he doesn't want to race anymore, he doesn't have to. And you kind of just have to accept that. And to be honest, if, the Mario Kart racing, he's labeled it, it's just not fun. He's calling it anti-racing. But, he said he can accept he's dealing with P7 or P8 wherever Red Bull's at, but he isn't happy with the fact that he's behind somebody the whole time and that you can't overtake without getting passed back. Copy and paste racing, predictable racing. It's all it has. It's just not been fun for the four-time champ. So that's that. Leading on to my final headline before we get into the race recap. Antonelli's pulled Russell's pants down at this point. I mean, Russell obviously had the bad setup, adjustment, and that might have affected him for today's race. It obviously affected him in qualifying. He was almost 3 tenths down on Antonelli, but at the same time, it's like Antonelli won the race by 14 seconds. Russell could not even pass Leclerc or Piastri. Sure, the safety car came out at the worst time possible for George Russell. It literally came out as he was leaving the pit lane. But at the same time, he lost the position on the restart to Lewis Hamilton. He had the deployment issue and fell behind Leclerc. He couldn't pass Leclerc then. I mean, he tried to pass Leclerc, and Leclerc pulled his pants down. George Russell has no pants on right now. If we're being honest, he doesn't. His pants have been shocked and shooked and taken off. It is honestly, it's rough. You know, you got the 19-year-old teammate. Kimi Antonelli is the youngest driver ever to lead the world championship, and he's looked absolutely unstoppable the last 2 races. You know, sure, Mercedes had Antonelli was in P6 going into turn 1 after lights out, and he passed his way through he passed through Hamilton, he passed through Norris, he was passing through Leclerc, he was catching up to Russell, then Russell pit, and then Antonelli obviously got luck with the safety car, but he was making moves Russell couldn't. And, maybe that's because of the setup, maybe that's because of other things, but right now, Kimi Antonelli, at this rate, George Russell, everybody should expect Russell to bounce back. It's George Russell. He's a great driver, but Antonelli's proven to be a lot more than just, your 19-year-old teammate. He is. It's great stuff, and I'm happy. Sure, Antonelli's also been super lucky with some of these safety cars and just timings and how things are working out, but he's not messing up. He's not making mistakes. So enough with the headlines. I just hit my PlayStation. Time to get into the actual race. I haven't talked about the race. The race recap. So obviously at the start, you had Mercedes having an absolute shocker. Both of them. Antonelli fell down to P6, Russell down to P4. So once again, Mercedes just having terrible starts. It's just something it's just a characteristic. And then you had Oscar Piastri going around the outside and passing both of them. Charles Leclerc passing both of them. It was absolutely incredible stuff. I haven't talked about Oscar Piastri yet, but Oscar Piastri could have won this race. He could have won this race. Oscar Piastri, had that safety car not come out, it would have been interesting to see. Russell couldn't pass him. Antonelli had better pace, but would Antonelli have been able to pass, Piastri? It would have been something to see. And obviously the safety car hurt him, but, that's Formula One. It happens, and, you just got to go with it. So, but yeah, after going into turn 1, you had the Mercs in P4 and P6. They obviously slowly were rebounding. Then you had further on back, you had Verstappen and Hadjar having a little scrap. Hadjar has done pretty good this year so far. Qualifying-wise, race-wise, it's been a little bit weaker, but at the same time, he's been unlucky with some things, but I think in terms of the race, Verstappen had him by a lot today. Verstappen obviously was up there in 8th, and, Hadjar was battling with Racing Bulls and Audis the whole race. So, yeah, but after that, things, settled down a little bit. You had, P1 through P6 that were only separated by like 5 seconds maybe, and that was just because Hamilton was a little bit back, but like everybody was pretty close. Honestly, that was a little entertaining to me, was that just like how close everybody was the whole race. Even, after the safety car, everybody was like, besides after Antonelli kind of took off into the distance, you had that battle between, Russell, the 2 Ferraris, and the 2 McLarens. Everybody was pretty close. Okay, Piastri kind of was a little bit, he was like a second or 2 up the road, but everybody else was in that like 1 second window, battling. And so, but before that, obviously, you had the pit stops. Norris, Leclerc, and Piastri pitted at the front of the field before the safety car. And then, of course, George Russell, poor Russell, he goes into the pits, gets his pit stop, starts driving out, and boom, Bearman's crash, safety car. Unfortunate timing, and he said it on the radio. He was pretty upset about it, and that's understandable because that was so unfortunate. If he just stays out, Russell's going to be P1 in the race. So, yeah. But obviously, Bearman, the crash, we talked about it already. Uh, Ollie Bearman, I talked about it in the last video I did on this. He didn't have that good of a race. I mean, he had a pretty good start, but in terms of a weekend in general, pretty bad qualifying. And then obviously that incident there, which wasn't really his fault. It was just, the regulations have the cars so that if Colapinto decides to harvest his battery there, Bearman's going to come by and, be a lot faster. And then unfortunately, Spoon's just very tight, and that's not on Colapinto, it's not on Bearman, it's a racing incident, and it's just something that FIA has to change about the regulations. So that's that. But yeah, so then obviously the field reset a little bit there. You had Antonelli P1, Piastri 2, Russell 3, Hamilton 4. Hamilton had stayed out to that point, along with Gasly and Verstappen, so they benefited, but in reality they were already there. So, and then you had Leclerc and Norris P5, P6. So on the restart, Russell got with his pants down again. Third time this video, pants have been pulled down on George Russell. He was shook this weekend. George Russell lost his pants. They're not in the dryer. They're not in the wash. They're gone. He's walking around in his trousers. You got on the restart then, Gasly also was side by side with Verstappen going into turn one, and then there's battles, throughout the field. Lawson and the two Audis, Ocon obviously was making moves he passed both Audis. And yeah, somebody who I didn't mention yet, but Arvid Limbad had his race pretty messed up by that safety car. He was on for maybe a P10 there before the safety car, so that obviously messed him up. But yeah, then chilled out for a while there. It was a lot of just single file, cars kind of, figuring out where they're at. And then you had Russell, kind of like Colapinto had, but instead of Leclerc, having to get forced off the track, Leclerc was able to get by him, and Russell found out on the P5. Meanwhile, Antonelli is darting off into the sunset. Russell's P5. I'm not going to make a pants joke again, but he was shook. He was shook. And then obviously, Leclerc and Hamilton had another Ferrari cinema moment after that. You had Leclerc going around the outside in the turn one, and they made contact. Leclerc said I don't know if y'all were watching when they do the little sit down at the end for the top three, Leclerc was like, he thought he got a puncture because him and Hamilton made contact. So Leclerc was lucky to not walk away, but come off unscathed and then hold on for P3. Obviously then Russell got past Hamilton. Basically the last 15 laps was just Hamilton pulling back, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, and then, 2 laps to go, I think it was lap 51, Russell makes the move on Leclerc into the chicane, and then down the straight, Leclerc comes back around the outside, and he swoops around and pulls his pants down. Russell was not expecting that. Charles Leclerc's a dog. That was a great move. That was probably my favorite moment of the race, honestly, when Leclerc did that, because, it just, that's clutch. That's clutch. And that's great. That was great there from Leclerc. I mean, sure, it was a little bit of copy and paste because he lets Russell go by and then he goes right back by him. But at the same time, it's that move was chills. It was nice. And then you had Norris going past Hamilton the next lap. It was there is good racing there. It's just there needs to be some changes, I believe. There just needs to be some changes. But then, yeah, that was pretty much it for the race. Antonelli wins the race, becoming the youngest driver to lead the World Championship ever. First Italian to lead the championship since Fisichella in 2005. So, incredible stuff. You had Gasly, an incredible drive, P7, holding off Verstappen for the whole race. You had Lawson, another great drive. He got benefited by the safety car, but credit to him, he held off Ocon, who in the Haas, who probably was a little bit of a better car today. Fernando Alonso finished a race. Let's go, Aston Martin. Not the worst team on the grid this weekend. So, yeah, I mean, overall, my honest thinking on the Japanese Grand Prix, I'm going to give it a 3, 4. Maybe I'll give it a 4 out of 10. I'll give it a 4 out of 10 just because, honestly, while it was a little bit, copy and paste racing, I didn't, honestly hate it so much. It wasn't like something I like. I'm gonna say I full on just enjoyed, but at the same time, I wasn't like bored wanting to fall asleep by it. I think at the end of the day, changes obviously need to be made, but we'll see what happens in Miami. See what continues to happen. Teams have 5 weeks now. 5 weeks without any races is but I mean, hey, maybe we'll go into Miami's teams. We could have a completely different order. But yeah, we'll go through top 10. Antonelli, Piastri P2, Leclerc P3, great result. Russell P4, Norris P5, Hamilton P6. So literally, the order went Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari, 1 through 6. Then P7, you had Gasly, obviously, holding up for Verstappen, and Liam Lawson, P9, I mentioned that. Esteban Ocon finished 10th. You had Hulkenberg, P11, so Audi right there because Bortoletto was 13th. Hadjar was just stuck behind them pretty much the whole race. Hadjar had a difficult race, but that's what happens. You had Lindblad, P14. He was right behind Bortoletto. Sainz finished down the road, P15. I mean, he's doing pretty solid there for Williams, even though P15 is not anything great, but gotta credit him more. Credit is due. Colapinto, very tough weekend for Colapinto. Nowhere near his teammate in anything. That's going to be interesting. Perez, P17. Cadillac, P17. And a race where the only person that DNF'd was Bearman. And, I mean, Stroll was finishing last anyway, so who really cares? Alonso, P18. Shout out to Alonso finishing a race. Albon was just doing pit stops and random stuff at the end. Stroll DNF and Bearman DNF. So yeah, that does it for the Japanese Grand Prix. If you enjoyed the recap, I would appreciate a like, comment or two. I'd love to hear some feedback, some suggestions. I'm open to pretty much anything here. I'm getting my feet wet in the Formula One stuff, but I love this. And, I want to keep continuing making content on it. So if you guys like it, send some support, some, comments, that would be great. Even if it's critique, feedback, anything, I'll take it. And yeah, that's going to do it for Japan. We got 5 weeks now till Miami. And, it'll be nice to not have to stay up till 3 in the morning for a race. So, yeah. Hope you all have a great rest of your Sunday or week, whatever goes on Monday through Friday, and I will catch you guys in the next one.